Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to coverage of the Apex Motorsport Racing League season finale here, coming to you from the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. This is a league which started off on the F1 2019 game. The last two races of the season have been on F1 2020. Last week we were at the Canadian Grand Prix, which was won by Iceberg Gaming, and in doing so he also secured the championship, so congratulations to him on that achievement. He is not racing today along with a few other of the drivers in this league, but we do however have 8 competitors for today's Grand Prix who are eager to boost their points tally at the end of the season and also get some practice in ahead of the new season, which will be exclusively on the F1 2020 game, and it will be starting in a couple of weeks' time on August the 6th. The setup for this session is a one-shot qualifying, which is going on at the moment, and then a 50% race. And you'll notice as well that we have the multiplayer car liveries on today, rather than the drivers driving for their respective teams that they've had throughout the season, just to change things up a bit for the final race and to see what liveries the guys have come up with. So for this one-shot qualifying, of course everyone is driving a lap simultaneously, and at the moment it's Vinny who is leading the way with Michael in second place, although Michael has just moved ahead into the lead. So as they come down the hangar straight now towards the end of the lap, it looks like it's going to be a battle between Michael and Vinny for pole position here at the British Grand Prix as they come into the final sector, and Vinny has now taken the advantage again as we're coming to the final couple of corners, and there's a lock up there on the front left for Vinny, but he still looks like he's set for pole position here as he comes up to the line, and he does take pole position with a 1:27.0 ahead of Michael with a 27.1. And you can see at the bottom of the screen that 3 of the drivers have been disqualified from the session, so their lap has been invalidated for corner cutting. And we do have strict corner cutting on for this Grand Prix, and so we see the grid here: Vinny on pole, Michael a 10th back in second place, and then James a further couple of tenths in third, Piero in fourth, Cardinals in fifth, and then the 3 guys at the back of the grid who did not set a lap time. So the drivers are coming up to the starting grid now for the British Grand Prix. 8 runners here today and a 26 lap race. It's a beautiful day here at Silverstone, clear blue skies. Can the guys deliver a season finale to remember as the lights go out? And we are underway, and it looks like Vinny has got off to a reasonable start, but Michael appears to have the edge into turn 1, and he does. And it looks like everyone's got through the first couple of corners cleanly. Looked like James might have been sizing up a move there on the inside of Vinny, but he couldn't make it stick. So it's Michael from Vinny from James, Cardinals, Righty, Trem, Butters, and then Piero in last at the moment. And we've got a spinner already, and that's Piero, who has gone off at the infield and dropped right down to the back, a few seconds adrift. And another spinner now. This is James, who has dropped down from 3rd to 7th place, and he manages to get going again, but a couple of guys spinning out at the start of the race, although not sure whether that was down to any contact or not. And up at the front, clearly away, Michael in the lead with Vinny in second, and now Cardinals and Righty going side by side through Maggots and Beckett's. And Righty is right up behind Cardinals as we come onto the hangar straight. Is he going to be able to size up and move into 3rd as they come down to the next right-hander? And he does. So that's Righty up into 3rd from Cardinals. Is Cardinals going to have a look down the inside here as they come into the final couple of corners, and Cardinals has gone wide onto the grass and dropped back to 6th place as a result of that. So Righty has held on to 3rd place here on lap 1. Here's James coming up behind Trem, who's on the medium compound tyre, so James should have a speed advantage at the moment. And it looks like he might be trying to make a move up the inside. They come down the old hangar straight into the old turn 1 now, and contact between the two, and James has spun off, and that'll be a big disappointment for him. He was sizing up 3rd place, but now he's dropped back to 5th behind Righty. Will be interesting to see whether that's considered as a racing incident or not. And this is the leaders, Michael and Vinny, with contact as well, and Vinny has gone off. He rejoins, but he's lost some time, and well, that's another one that'll be interesting to see how the stewards favour on that one, whether or not it's a racing incident or if there's any blame to be apportioned there. And now we've got Piero and Butters battling over 7th place as well at the end of the hangar straight there, so plenty of battling going on at this stage of the race. Butters down in 8th at the moment, and Cardinals has gone wide, which has allowed Butters through into 7th, and he may even be looking at the back of Piero as they come down the pit straight into turn 1, and they're almost 3 wide. That's not going to work out, and Cardinals has gone wide and come back across and hit Butters, and that's disappointing for those two. Butters hasn't lost too much time, but Cardinals has gone off and rejoins now, and it'll be interesting to see whether either of them have picked up any damage from that incident. Into the pits now comes Butters, so it looks like he may have got some damage from that collision with Cardinals, and yes, they're changing his front wing, and he's switched from the soft to the medium tyre. So this is interesting now, because the recommended strategy is in fact a 1-stop, so the mediums can go a long way in this race. And Butters, well, he'll have 21 laps now to try and manage those tyres to the finish, and with some clear air now, it'll be interesting to see how he does. How will his pace be, and will he be able to be in contention for a podium here potentially? James now up behind Righty, recovering from his earlier collision with Trem. And he's going to try and see if he can latch onto the back of Righty as Righty goes wide out of the final corner, and James should be able to put a move into turn 1. He does. So that's James back up to 4th place, and chasing down Trem once more, who is still on those mediums and about 12 seconds up the road. And Righty has retired from the Grand Prix. Now, we haven't seen why on screen, and we can't now select his car, so we don't know whether or not he's had a crash or just left, but now the safety car is coming out. So, well, it'll be interesting to see if anyone decides to dive into the pits at this point. James has just gone past. We've got Piero, Cardinals and Butters behind. Butters, of course, has already come into the pits for his mediums, so this could work out very nicely for him, because it will allow him to close up to the back of the pack. And at the front, we've got Michael and Vinny, who will now be a lot closer after the safety car. Who is going to come into the pits now as the line comes around to the final couple of corners where the pit lane entry is, and it looks like Michael's gone in as well as Trem, so 2 of the runners coming into the pit lane, and a message on the bottom suggesting that Michael may have been disqualified from the race. I'm not too sure why. Ignoring yellow flags, it says, and Trem as well. So are we about to see 2 disqualifications? Looks like we are. Michael has been disqualified, and Trem. And, well, I have no idea why that is. Maybe it was thought that as they entered the pit lane that they overtook the safety car, as Trem stops in the pit lane. Hopefully he can get that out of the way fairly quickly, but, well, we now have Vinny leading the race. So a huge shock there for Michael and Trem. These guys now coming round to restart the race as the safety car pulls into the pit lane. And Vinny is winding it up now to get back underway as his pit window is opened, and he's got James right up behind him as they come into turn 1. These two battling over the lead as we get back underway here in the British Grand Prix. And Butters, who made that pit stop, is in 4th place on the mediums, and Cardinals has spun out at the exit of turn 3, I think that is. So he will drop back once more. But Butters in 4th, well, he's pitted, and I don't think anyone else has out of the top 5. So Butters potentially with the advantage, and he's definitely got the advantage over Piero now because he's overtaken him and moved up into 3rd place. So the onus now is on the likes of Vinny and James up front, who are still battling quite hard here. Can these guys pull a gap to Butters and then come into the pits? Their pit stops will have to be quite soon, you would imagine, so surely it's an advantage Butters in this race as these guys come out of the Maggots and Beckett's complex towards the Hangar Straight. So Vinny now into the pits, which releases Butters into the lead of the Grand Prix. He's been running for 7 laps already on those medium tyres, and it will be interesting to see now whether or not he can get them to the end, and also get them to the end whilst keeping a reasonable pace, because the likes of Vinny and James behind are going to be on a charge now for the rest of the Grand Prix. And as I say that, James sets the fastest lap with a 1:29.6, but he hasn't been able to get ahead of Vinny. Vinny holds on to 2nd place, and everyone in this Grand Prix now should be able to get to the end without having to make another pit stop, as Cardinals picks up a 3-second time penalty. But the gap between Vinny and Butters is 24.5 seconds at this stage, so very interesting now to see how this race unfolds for the remaining laps. James will try to hang on to the back of Vinny and use DRS to get pulled along as well. But can Butters up front hold on to this lead and potentially win the season finale here at the British Grand Prix? You can see now the gap is coming down up front between Vinny and Butters. It's now 21.7 seconds, and Piero is out of the race. He was in 4th place. We're not sure what's happened there. Maybe he crashed, but he's out of the Grand Prix. So we have 4 runners left in this race out of the original 8. And well, hopefully these guys can all get to the finish. But at the moment it's Butters leading by 21.5 seconds, so it's come down from about 25 seconds when Vinny made his pit stop. Will the fresher tyres be the difference here? So that gap now under 15 seconds between Butters and Vinny. We've got 7 laps remaining in this Grand Prix, and it's worth mentioning as well that penalties are a factor. So at the moment Vinny has a 3-second penalty, but Butters has 9 seconds worth of penalties. So realistically, if Vinny can get within 6 seconds of the lead, then he will be ahead of Butters when the penalties are taken into account. So the gap at the moment is 14 seconds, but really if Vinny can get within 6, then he should win the race. I'm sure he'd love to win it out on track all the same, and he's certainly closing in fast enough at the moment to make that happen, but 6 seconds is the crucial point at which he would ultimately inherit the lead, except, well, unless of course he was to get more penalties himself, which he doesn't look like doing currently. He's driving well, consistently quicker than Butters, and James has dropped back behind as well to about 4.7 seconds, so it's all about the win here for Vinny. We can see now this gap between Butters and Vinny is just over 6 seconds, and it looks like any moment now it's going to come down below that, and it does on the Hangar Straight. So unfortunately for Butters, he's ultimately lost the race lead, but he's soldiering on here. 17 lap old mediums. It's been a good run from Butters, you have to say, and he's got another 3 laps to make these tyres last. and try to secure a podium? Can he stay ahead of James, who also has 3 seconds worth of penalties, but he's a further 8 seconds back from Vinny as it stands, and Vinny sets the fastest lap of the race, so he is really on a charge here. He wants to win this race out on track. And you can see this gap now, 2.5 seconds, and Butters is within view of Vinny, and the rate at which he's closing in, he should be able to catch him on the last lap. And Butters has got another penalty, so he's up to 12 seconds of penalties now. So James is not out of the hunt for second place here. Vinny looks to be all but certain to have the win in the bag, but he is closing in rapidly here to try and overtake Butters and take the checkered flag first. A little lock up on the front left into these final couple of corners, and the gap is less than a second, and a fastest lap again from Vinny, a 29.0, as they come through the first sector. And Vinny is going to have DRS. You can see how much he's closing in under braking here as they come up to the first DRS straight of the track. Is Vinny going to be close enough to make a move? It looks like Butters has got a pretty good exit there, so he should be able to hold on for the time being, but the Hangar Straight DRS zone will surely be a chance for Vinny, and he may not even need to wait that long. He's right up behind Butters now, and he might even make the move stick as they come down the pit straight, well, the old pit straight into the old turn 1, and Vinny has taken the lead out on track on the final lap of the British Grand Prix, the final lap of the season, and Vinny is well on his way to the victory. Butters needs to keep pushing because he's 11 seconds clear of James, and he needs to be more than 9 ahead in order to secure second. He's even coming back at Vinny a bit here with DRS, but wisely decides not to make a move at the end of the Hangar Straight. And into the final couple of corners now comes Vinny. He's going to take the checkered flag here to win the British Grand Prix, the season finale. Fantastic job from Vinny, and well done to Butters as well, who looks nailed on for second place here. James is not going to be able to get within 9 seconds, but he comes across the line to finish third, with Cardinals a lap behind in 4th place. So congratulations to Vinny on this victory today. His first of the season, I believe. And he did a great job today coming back, as Butters is shown as driver of the day, but for me, he did do a fantastic job, Butters, but Vinny as well. A superb comeback to overturn a 25-second lead that Butters had out on track. So Vinny gets the maximum points for the victory and also for the fastest lap. A great end to the season for him, and plenty of reason to be optimistic ahead of the new season starting in a couple of weeks' time. So we just see now the final results here. Vinny takes the victory from Butters and James on the podium. Cardinals in 4th place, and then 4 guys did not finish: Piero, Michael, Trem and Righty. Thank you for watching. We hope you can join us for the new season starting on August the 6th.